Good morning, families. I want to change things up today and skip the morning meeting routine. I would love for you to greet your child and students to greet your parents. However you would like to this morning, maybe with a hug, with a high five. Share an affirmation with them for working with you, or parents share an affirmation with your child for something that you're very proud of them for doing during this remote learning time. We'll skip over the activity because I have a read aloud to share at the end of this video and I don't want it to be too long. Let's go ahead and read the morning message. Hi, fantastic first graders. Today you will find the short E words in the poem, solve word problems, and record the weather. Be creative and stay focused. Love, Mrs. McCormack. Let's jump right into the day's plan. Yesterday, your students read the poem, Jen the Hen, and drew a picture of what they visualized when they saw the poem. Today, they are going to use that poem. They're going to read it again. List 4 of the short E words from the poem. Short E says like an egg. So I will attach the picture of the anchor chart we created for short E words to the letter for the day, so you can refer back to that if your child's having trouble remembering what a short E word is. So you're going to list 4 of those from the poem. Then they can highlight or color the real words, the words you would hear or use or see in your everyday reading and writing and speaking and listening. After you finish that, it's your specialist time. Tuesday is library, so please check out Mrs. Rosenfeld's page. After your specialist time is math, you're going to graph the weather and then warm up with some counting. Today is Tuesday. On Tuesday, we practice word problems. So again, you have a word problem on the front and a word problem on the back. Your students should draw a picture, show that they can solve the problem on a number line, and write it in an equation. Again, I want you to write after your answer what we're talking about. I need to know the unit, or you need to add a label to your answer. Final part of our day is science. You've been doing a great job with your weather observations. Keep that up. So we start the day with our weather observation. You'll read the next section in your National Geographic. It's exploring weather, and you will have some fill-in-the-blank questions to answer as you read all about snow in this passage. So I want you to write the word on the line that finishes the sentence. On your letter for the day, today's extra challenge is a response to this book. So listen closely and be ready for my questions at the end. Here we go. Hi class, the story I'm reading for you today is Humphrey the Lost Whale, a true story. Now, if it's a true story, does this fall into the fiction or the non-fiction genre? Fiction, we remember by saying fiction, fake, made up stories. This would be non-fiction because this is based on a true story. So this is one of my favorite non-fiction books to share with my class each year. Humphrey the Lost Whale, a true story. Story is by Wendy Tokuda and Richard Hall. The illustrations are by Hanoko Wakiyama. Our story begins on a sunny day far out at sea. A pod of humpback whales was traveling south together for the winter. Humpback whales are magnificent creatures that sing beautiful songs to each other underwater. In the whole world, there are very few of them, so each one is quite special, and they are intelligent. Every winter, they travel south. Every summer, they head north, and they always know the way. But even whales can make mistakes. One whale, named Humphrey, made a big one. He turned away from his friends and wandered under the Golden Gate Bridge into San Francisco Bay. Everyone was surprised to see Humphrey in the bay. People don't get to see humpback whales very often because they usually stay in very deep waters. It was a special treat to see one so close to the city of San Francisco. Humphrey was a spectacular sight, as long as a city bus and as big as 7 elephants put together. He would come up to breathe, appearing as if by magic, and people would stop whatever they were doing to watch him. Then Humphrey did something that no whale had ever done. Instead of swimming back out to sea, he went the wrong way up the Sacramento River. The big river became smaller and smaller as Humphrey traveled upstream. He was looking for the ocean, but it was clear Humphrey was lost. Hundreds of people came to see Humphrey in the river. They would stare out at the water, waiting for him to come up for air. Then, with a big whoosh, his giant back would appear, and someone would shout, "There he is!" He was an amazing sight, but something was wrong. Whales are supposed to live in the salt water of the ocean, not in the fresh water of rivers. A whale would die if it stayed in fresh water too long. Humphrey was in trouble. Everyone knew that Humphrey had to be turned back toward the ocean, but no one knew how to do that. After all, something like this had never happened before. The farther Humphrey went, the more worried everyone became. They wondered whether he was getting anything to eat, whether he was getting sick, or whether he would beach himself on the river. One day, Humphrey squeezed under a tiny bridge. It was so small, no one could understand how he had done it. Now he was really in trouble. He was trapped. The river beyond the bridge was very shallow and narrow. It was so small Humphrey could hardly turn around. There he was, a whale stuck in a tiny stream right in the middle of a farm field. It was hard to believe. Something had to be done to get him out of there fast. Humphrey looked sick. The scientists knew he would die if he didn't get back to the ocean. Time was running out. The people trying to save Humphrey would move fast. The scientists, Coast Guard officers, and many others got together to work at a plan to save him. They decided to bang long pipes together underwater and scare him back down the river. At the same time, they would play a recording that would broadcast underwater the sounds of whales eating. Maybe Humphrey would be so hungry and lonely he would swim toward the sound. It worked. Humphrey turned around and started swimming back down the river. Everyone was relieved, but the danger wasn't over yet. When Humphrey arrived at the little bridge, he stopped. He was afraid to go under it. He couldn't find a space big enough to go through. People kept banging the pipes. Humphrey seemed flustered. What would he do? As the pipes kept clanging, Humphrey became angry. He rolled from side to side and thrashed his great tail. People stopped banging the pipes. But Humphrey's friends wouldn't give up. They knew he had to get him past the little bridge. If they didn't, he would die in the river. The people trying to save him decided to make the space under the bridge bigger. They brought in a huge crane and worked through the night to clear away some of the old pillings. Would Humphrey notice the difference? The next day, the people began banging the pipes together again. Clang, clang! The boats moved closer to Humphrey to urge him on toward the bridge. This was his last chance. Everyone watched nervously. What do you think? Is he going to go in the right direction? Let's keep reading and see. Humphrey bravely approached the bridge, but as he tried to swim under it, his head became lodged between the pillings. He frantically bobbed his head up and down and thrashed his tail to free himself. It was a terrible moment. The people trying to save Humphrey thought it might be the end. Humphrey was stuck. Suddenly, Humphrey lifted one fin way out of the water, almost touching the bridge. As he twisted his body, he broke free from the pillings and swam through to the other side. There was a shout from the banks of the river, then another and another, until everyone was cheering. "Hooray for Humphrey!" they shouted. "He made it! Humphrey the lost whale was finally on his way home." A whole flotilla of boats and the clanging of pipes behind him helped Humphrey find his way down the river. Finally, Humphrey arrived at San Francisco Bay. Humphrey spent one whole day happily swimming around the bay. He did tricks for the people gathered along the shore to see him one last time. They oohed when he slapped his tail, they ahed when he leaped into the air and belly flopped back into the water. Humphrey seemed to be saying goodbye and thank you to all his friends who had helped save his life. The people who had helped rescue Humphrey also felt grateful. Humphrey had taught them a lot about humpback whales. He had also become a good friend. Many times during his ordeal, Humphrey could have simply flicked his tail and overturned boats carrying the people who were trying to help him. But he never did. He seemed to understand that they were his friends. Finally, in the late afternoon fog, Humphrey swam under the Golden Gate Bridge and back out to sea. Humphrey, the whale, had made it. He was finally home. And here's some pictures about the real Humphrey, and I will add some links for you and your family to see some YouTube videos about Humphrey. All right, if you listen to that story, I want you to tell me why it was a problem that Humphrey swam upstream. Why was it a problem that he swam up a river? What can you tell me about whales? What do you know about them? What do you know about what whales need to survive? So, listen to that story closely. You might want to go back and listen again to some of those parts. You might want to use some of your prior knowledge, or maybe look in any books you have at home about whales. But write to me or email me and tell me why it was a problem that Humphrey was leaving the ocean and swimming upstream in a river. Have a great day. I hope you loved the story as much as I do.